Biliyor musun? Erken rezervasyon başladı. Yazın en renkli fırsatları cyprusparadise.com'da. %40, %50 hatta %60'a varan kaçırılmaz indirimler. Erken rezervasyon yap, uçak bileti fiyatına paket tatili al. Uygun fiyata Kıbrıs tatilinin adresi cyprusparadise.com. Zaman akıp gitmeden acele edin. Bir bakmışsınız yaz gelmiş. Cyprus Paradise. Tatiliniz bizimle güvende.
Kalitenin, güvenin, hızlı teslimatın adresi Ancon Furniture. Ancon Furniture ailesi olarak yeni ürünler ile hizmete devam etmekteyiz. Yeni model koltuk takımlarımız, yatak mekanizmaları bir dokunuş ile açılıp bir dokunuş ile kapanabilmektedir. Bir dokunuş ile açtığımız yatak mekanizmasının yatak çarşafı kullanıma hazır, serili olarak içinden çıkmaktadır. Yıl sonuna kadar herhangi bir koltuk takımı alan her müşterimize akıllı sehpa hediyemizdir. En iyi ürün, en iyi fiyat. Sadece Ancon Furniture'da. Bize uğramadan karar vermeyin. En iyisini biz yapana kadar daha iyisi yok.
Welcome to the latest printed press. Tonight's subject is a very important one. We're actually going to be discussing the arrival of the new COVID-19 vaccine, whether it's safe. And I'm very happy to have three experts on my program tonight. We've got Dr. Mekella, Fulya and Jansev with us tonight. Thank you very much for joining me, ladies. How are we today?
Good evening.
Good evening. Hiya. Well,
in a moment, I'll get everybody to introduce themselves and then we'll start the questions. If we could start with Dr. Mekella, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself to our audiences.
Sure. Well, obviously, my name is Dr. Mekella Yesil. I work with Public Health England as a researcher. I also run my own clinic called Community Health Screen UK, which was founded 3 years ago. So obviously, I'm involved with a lot of research within communities and obviously looking at disparities within the healthcare systems within the NHS and other areas. So at the moment, yeah, oncology is my field of study, but obviously with this vaccine, the mRNA one, which we're working on at the moment, involves a lot of research to do with that. So that's my specialist field.
Yes, and we're very thankful to have you on our program tonight. You've come on many a times through these COVID-19 days. Hopefully today, actually, we've got some really good news and, very informative things that we're going to be discussing with our audiences. Fulya, if you could just tell us about yourself as well, please.
Sure. I'm Fulya Yahioglu. I'm a senior public health commissioner working for the London Borough of Enfield. My speciality is that I commission clinical services within the London Borough of Enfield. So I work predominantly with North Middlesex University Hospital NHS Trust, Barnet Enfield NHS Trust, and other local and voluntary organisations, as well as other agencies. I'm an ex-scientist. I used to do research in molecular biology. I came out of that field and went into kind of local government. And some of my expertise comes from kind of my previous life as a scientist.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And thank you very much again for you coming on our program. I mean, I was hearing you just offline on the program, and some of the things both of you discussing, I didn't have a clue. So we're going to have a lot of clarification
Absolutely.
to myself. But it all sounds very, very exciting. Jansev, welcome again to my program. Thank you very much for coming on. Can you tell our audiences a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Jansev Jemal, and I have a PhD in social sciences generally, and have my day job now is working with research and statistics, sort of across different areas of public sector. So not just sort of health, do a bit of health plus other areas, but very much sort of specialist on different types of research methodologies and statistics.
Yes, fantastic. And again, it's a real pleasure to have you on my program. Thank you. Fulya, the first question is, let's start with the basics. What is the history of vaccines? When did we start using them?
Okay. I suppose it's quite a topical subject at the moment. We've got our coronavirus vaccines coming into the fore. So people may think that it is something quite recent, maybe in the last 20, 30 years. I mean, I remember vaccination was really a big thing when I was a child. So we were always kind of curious about the BCG kind of, you had your flower stamp on your arm, and, you know, you were like, oh, I can see, you know, I've been vaccinated. And then obviously that was the kind of the first time. But vaccination has been around for a few hundred years and even longer. People may or may not be aware, and I'm not trying to teach people to suck eggs, but we talk about vaccination, and I suppose the founder of vaccination is probably Dr. Edward Jenner, an English physician, and he's mainly credited with putting the name vaccine, so vacca, the Italian kind of I suppose translation for cow, and it was through cowpox that he was able to determine that milkmaids who were milking didn't get smallpox because they already had some form of the cowpox, and that was a kind of a lesser severe version of smallpox, and that's how he came to the conclusion that if he was able to get a bit of that cowpox and put it into a young person, I think it was an 8-year-old, 9-year-old boy, then you'd get a reaction. So the whole idea is that you'd give the vaccine was a foreign body, an agent, you take it into your body yourself, and you would get an immune response. So that would be, your body would detect that it was a foreign object, your immune system would start working, it would provide what's known as the antibodies, which are Y-shaped proteins, which come and tag onto the foreign body. And then once they've tagged onto the foreign body, they send a signal out to T killer cells, I suppose the ninja cells of our immune system, as well as macrophages who come and eat up the foreign body. So that's how he's able to kind of, although he didn't know it at the time, that's what's happened for the future. So he started it all off, and then it became Louis Pasteur, who we know around cholera, rabies, anthrax. He kind of developed the systems a lot more, so it became kind of weakened viruses, not just live viruses or bacteria. And then we move on to kind of the early 19th century and 20th century, and we become more and more advanced in the way we're using vaccines. So we want to obliterate certain diseases within the community. You want to stop the spread of diseases. So we're talking about things like diphtheria, tetanus. These are things that we still get vaccinated for. If you go into any kind of third world country, Southeast Asia, you would be asked to be vaccinated. So it's not anything new. So we've had it around for a number of years. And I think the biggest kind of breakthrough has come in the last probably 35, 40 years. And that's quite a small time frame when you think about it, how far we've got in terms of genetic engineering. When I was a student and we were doing molecular biology, I mean, it was an exciting time. And now you don't need the live viruses. You don't need weakened foreign parts or bacteria. You can actually use parts, genetic material, to get your own body to kind of produce. So you might take, for instance, a bit of the outer protein and just kind of genetically take that piece and inject it in as part of a virus into your virus vaccine into your system, and that will produce it in your own body. And then you have an immune response. So these are the kind of new developments that have taken place now, and it's really, really exciting, I think. And if people are kind of thinking, well, is it safe? Yes, it is safe. I mean, these kind of viral vaccines are, you know, they're pretty stable, but once you inject it into your system, once you've copied and your system starts working, then they come out of your system. So it's not going to embed into your DNA or whatever, if people are thinking like that. It's very much, you know, done on the basis that, you know, your body is kind of controlling it.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear this, and obviously that's why we're doing this program, so we can inform our audiences, because I know that people are a little bit anxious about getting this vaccine, because, you know, there's all rumours about you can't travel if you don't get it done, and, you know, people get suspicious. But we'll carry on with the questions. We've got some questions from our audiences as well. Gul Neil has said, is the vaccine available for everyone? Where can the public get the vaccinations? When can they get vaccinated? I think we'll probably cover that in a moment.
Yeah.
Jansev, can you tell us why we can't use existing vaccines, first of all, for COVID?
Well, so it's like every virus. So every virus sort of has its own sort of, should we say, characteristics, personalities, in the same way that a person's DNA gives their sort of.
She's freezing.
Yeah. It's broadband, unfortunately.
Yeah,
That's
you're freezing, Jansev. How about now?
Sorry, I'm back. Yeah. And the other challenge is if viruses mutate, right? Now with the COVID virus, one of the reasons, now I know, going to your point about people's worries and concerns, is one of the things that I've heard people talking about a lot is, oh, it's been produced so quickly. Now we can go into in the discussion some of the reasons why everything has moved as quickly as it has. But one of them is that the scientists were not starting from scratch and creating COVID vaccination, because it has its origins. Whilst it is unique and it is different, it has its origins in going back to SARS. So the scientists were starting off with knowledge. And actually, just to build on that point about why things have moved as quickly as they have, and I think Mekella can speak to this more as well, is that I think for the first time sort of in my lifetime that I've known it really, is that scientists from across the world have shared information and coordinated in a way that they've not done before.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it actually sends a shiver down my spine now, just thinking about the way in which the scientific community across the world has come together to share that knowledge, to try and move quickly in developing that vaccine. So it's, you know, they couldn't just take an existing vaccine because COVID was different, but they could use existing knowledge and share their knowledge very quickly about the new virus to develop the vaccine that we now have.
Absolutely. Brilliant. I mean, I think, Meg, you're going to explain to us now the protocols for ensuring that these vaccines are safe. So we've sort of had the history, we've had how it all sort of works, and why it is that it's actually taken less time, because, like you said, Jansev, you know, scientists have communicated in a way in which that they've never done before. But what are the protocols for ensuring that a vaccine is safe, Meg?
Well, the studies have been going on now since, obviously, when this disease first evolved back in December, January. So they were quite quick on the ball to share the information, which happened with Wuhan and all the scientific authorities around the world globally. So they all shared the information. So basically what's happened is with the Pfizer and BioNTech research, the company was formed in 2008, so 12 years ago. Now, normally for a vaccine to sort of like come into force, it takes 10 years of trial. So you've got stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and they have to go through very stringent sort of like research and like protocols to make sure that they are safe. The efficacy of the vaccine is safe. So what they've done is they've targeted, say, 10,000 people first of all. Some are given the real vaccine and some are given a placebo. So basically, they're going to be monitored. They're going to sort of go to hospital, get the research done on them to find out how they've responded to the vaccine. The one that we're talking about at the moment, the one that just come to the UK last week, the 800,000 doses, the mRNA vaccine, that works on what we call a ribonucleic acid, which means that some of the virus, the spike protein, has been taken from the live virus, encapsulated into a small nanoparticle, which is then made into a vaccine, which is stored at a very cold temperature. And obviously, getting that to patients and distributing it effectively is going to be the major thing at the moment. But they are safe. They are getting to where they need to go at the moment. And obviously, the older you are, the more likely you are to sort of like have a response to the virus. So they're treating the elderly at the moment. I think it's been sort of like on the TV and stuff like that. I don't follow much what goes on TV, unfortunately, but I know that 80-year-olds, people who work in hospitals, people who work in care homes, they're going to be the first point of call because they're the more vulnerable ones. And obviously the NHS staff. I think there's been some bad media about 2 people getting sick or having an adverse reaction. There were people who carried EpiPens who have what we call anaphylactic shock. So people who have nut allergies, egg allergies, lactose intolerance, or have Crohn's disease or wheat sort of problems, they may not be suitable for the vaccine, but the vaccines are 99.99% safe. They're not going to kill you. They're not going to harm you. They're not a cure. They're a treatment. A treatment means they're a preventative. So that is what they're working on at the moment.
Okay, Fulya, can you tell us the differences between the vaccines and when they're actually going to be released?
Sure. I think at the moment we've got about 280 plus vaccine candidates. I think people need to know that there's lots of work going on, and as Jansev had pointed out, it's a real collaboration between various academic institutions and global companies working, pharmaceutical companies working on this. So, and there's around 16 in phase 2, phase 3 development. So the 3 that's on the news at the moment are the Pfizer BioNTech, which is the US-German partnership. You've got the Moderna virus, which is the collaboration between the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases within the US of A, and you've got the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, they're pretty similar to some extent. I mean, if we look at kind of what they contain, I mean, 2 of them contain the messenger RNA, as Mek had pointed out, the ribonucleic acid, which is a single strand RNA, and that's the Pfizer BioNTech and the Moderna. The other, the Oxford group, AstraZeneca, one is a viral vector. So they've used chimpanzees. I think they've used chimpanzees. Yeah, with the cold. It's a kind of a weakened form of the cold virus. So, and they've utilized that. So in terms of dosage, they're all, again, pretty much the same, 2 doses. So 1 initial dose and then a second booster dose. With the Pfizer BioNTech, it's kind of 3 weeks apart. With Moderna and Oxford group, it's 4 weeks apart. Now, in terms of the storage conditions, as Mek said, the Pfizer one is minus 70 degrees, but it can be stored in a fridge for up to 5 days. But it's the efficacy. What you want is to be effective. You have to use it quite quickly. They come in 5 vials. And I know that Pfizer have put together some boxes with dry ice, so carbon monoxide, to keep these drugs up, these vaccines cool. But again, there's a logistic problem because not everywhere will have fridges that will be able to cope with these vaccines, and we don't want to lose any efficacy in the meantime. The other 2 vaccines, the Moderna and Oxford one, the Moderna is minus 20 degrees centigrade, but it can be stored in the fridge for up to, I believe, 30 days, although it's got a 6-month shelf life.
Shelf life, yeah.
Yep, and the Oxford AstraZeneca one, again, that's probably the easiest one in terms of distribution, because it's in the normal kind of fridge temperatures, 2 to 8 degrees. So if you look at the effectiveness, as Mek had pointed out, 95% on the Pfizer, BioNTech. Moderna is around 95%. The Oxford group, it's between 60 to 90%. But what they've done is within their studies, I think the first dose is low and the second dose is higher, which gives it a higher efficacy of around 90%. Now, in terms of when these vaccines will be released, we've already have the Pfizer vaccine, which is being given out. I mean, I'm fully aware that by the 21st, I believe, I know Enfield will start getting some of those vaccines. for it to be distributed, and they're looking at distribution centres. So across the north central London area, that's what's happening, and I'm sure across London and nationally. In terms of the kind of Moderna one, I mean, that's still going through FDA approval and Medicines Health Regulatory Authority in the UK. But they're hoping kind of around springtime, possibly kind of after a bit later. And I think the Oxford AstraZeneca one, that's probably coming up very quickly as well, so potentially after the new year. But again, with all these vaccines, it will be the ones that are the most vulnerable first, so the 80 plus, looking at those, and care workers working in hospital settings, residential care homes. And then as you go down, it will be kind of a younger age groups and those with vulnerabilities. But yeah, pregnant women aren't on the list at the moment. I mean, purely because we haven't had any kind of data around. They haven't been used in the clinical trials. We're talking about 40,000 people have taken on in these trials. So it's been quite an extensive kind of work around it to make sure that safety profiles are good.
Yes, I mean, it's all very good news, to be honest with you. I mean, like by April, we'll be quite on our way. Mekella, I know that you are involved in the Oxford study and soon to be a vaccinator. Can you tell us about your experiences as well?
Right, without going into too much detail, obviously, I don't want to put a lot of people off. It is distributed into two sort of like vials, obviously, and they are 21 days apart. Obviously, you have to have regular blood tests every 4 months because every 120 days we reproduce new blood cells. So we have to sort of like go and get checked out. Even I do. So that was part of the study as well. So to find out if we have antibodies. And I think there was a paper published yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, that said that people who had it back in February, when the trials were going on for the mRNA one, the Pfizer-BioNTech one, they still had antibodies to this date. And we also know that when SARS happened back in 2005 and 2008, the MERS viral thing that happened, there were antibodies in people's bodies 15 years on. So we know that the antibody could be, and obviously this virus hasn't evolved much. So that's a good thing. We know that we can keep these vaccines for, because what happens is every year when the flu virus occurs in like sort of September, October, we get the research from countries like Australia. We have to go and get the information, the data is collected, and then it's put into research, and then we decide how we're going to distribute the vaccines for the flu to these to other countries. So what's happened now is with this type of virus, because we know it hasn't evolved much, it was I think 30,000, it's now showing at 28. We know that we can play around with it because it hasn't mutated. So we can keep the vaccines for the next couple of months and know that we've still got this virus that hadn't mutated. That's one of the good things at the moment. And the trials, no problems at all. Like Dr. Fulya said, there's been 40,000 people who participated in the Oxford study, and nobody has passed away from it or anything like that. We've had 1 or 2 hiccups, that's about it. That with all vaccines. It's like, you go to a restaurant, eat some food, you have an allergic reaction, you deal with it. Obviously, anyone who has the vaccine, it has to be done in a medical setting where we have defibrillators, we have oxygen, we have adrenaline injections to make sure we administer them if anyone has an allergic reaction. But obviously, it's the patient's duty to tell the healthcare professional if they have any allergic reactions also.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on that, I think the Pfizer vaccine, I know it's been in the news around the 2 people that were working in healthcare settings, but my understanding was that within the kind of outline of what the vaccine does in terms of side effects, hypersensitivity was one of the things. Yeah. And I think that's probably, I mean, I'm not putting any blame to the trust, but I think that could be a communication problem in terms of the staff working in those settings, as well as the trust in question in kind of not really understanding that, hypersensitive is a real issue. We have to make sure that people who are hypersensitive have all the facilities available. Should there be? I mean, we shouldn't be vaccinating them at the moment, but we need to be aware that that's out there.
Yeah, someone has actually put up here saying, can you repeat the date again, please, when Enfield will get the vaccine?
Oh, the Enfield is due to get the vaccine, I believe, on 21st of December.
Okay.
So already we've got some distribution sites, and I believe there are a couple of surgeries in Enfield that are going to be putting on the vaccination with nurses So I think fairly soon. So if you
21st is right, yeah.
yeah, if you get an invite, please do go.
Or a text
Please
on
go.
your phone or an email.
Yeah.
Don't ignore it.
We've got Ertanç Bey, who does programs with us as well, saying thank you all for the excellent informative discussion. Thank you to Aysen. Thank you very much, Ertanç Bey. Ramazan Bey has put in Turkish, hayırlı akşamlar, hayırlı hafta sonları sizin olsun sevgiyle selamlarla. I think people are very positive, really, with this program because we're giving them lots of good news. Jansev, I think people are wondering how long will vaccinating our population take and a return to normality. What are your thoughts?
That's a $64,000 question.
I wish I knew the answer. On the first point about how long will it all take, I think there's a number of factors that will determine how long this all takes. One is if the entire population was to be vaccinated. Obviously, I think there's approximately 64 million adults in the UK. That's a lot of vaccinations. Now, we've also alluded to during the programme that there are people who are concerned and have worries about taking the vaccination. Therefore, it's unlikely to be the case that there is 100% take-up.
Yep.
I was actually looking at some opinion polls recently for work about take-up, and this was after the Pfizer vaccination was given the go-ahead. And it showed people were asked, how likely are you to have the vaccination yourself? Very likely, fairly likely, not very likely, very unlikely. And around 67% of people said that they were likely, so that they were very or fairly likely to have the vaccination. So we're looking at about 2 out of 3 people who would have the vaccination. The other thing to factor into all of this actually is the vaccinations themselves becoming available. So it's brilliant that they are getting through. We've got the first one that's started that has had the approval and is starting to be used. Production will where vaccinations are approved, then obviously production rates will be upped. And I know that there are promises in terms of the other vaccinations that are to be approved, that the government have bought vaccinations. So once they are ready and approved and reach these shores, then they will be able to roll out. But so there's a lot of sort of question marks in there. I know that the government had said that they were hopeful that by Easter time things would be sort of back to normal. Now, I think it's unlikely, given all of those factors, I think it's unlikely that all of the vaccination program will be completed by then. The other thing is, just in terms of that vaccination program, and to come back to a couple of the questions that were raised on the thread, is if people are willing to have the vaccine, that is great. I think we would all encourage, from what we've seen of the tests and the results, for people to have the vaccination, but you do need to wait until you are contacted to the NHS, because they will do it in order of sort of age and vulnerability, leaving aside from NHS staffing who will be prioritised. They will do it by age and vulnerability. So you wait to be contacted. And then sort of, I would encourage people to take it up when they do get contacted.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, like I said, Easter time might be optimistic. I'm hopeful personally, maybe sort of a bit later in the spring towards summer, that life will start hopefully to return to the kinds of normality that we've seen before COVID.
That sounds excellent, though, because I actually envisage it getting back to normal for a lot longer than that. So actually, to be fair, ladies, you've really sort of cheered me up tonight. And the thing is the fact that, you have all these hearsay stories about the vaccination as well, and to actually hear it from scientists, people who've been involved in the research, it actually reassures people that everything is being done in a very safe way. We've got a few more questions, and then we're going to have to wrap up the program. We're already on 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So great having you all on here. Chanel Ali has put fantastic information, ladies. Mashallah, and thank you very much. Abi Hussein has got one other question. Turkey has ordered 50 million Chinese vaccinations, which means North Cyprus will get Chinese vaccinations as well. Should people feel confident having this vaccination? And whoever wants to take that question on.
We don't know what's in their vaccine, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be very similar to what we're getting. So we can't say not to take it, because by saying that, we're putting people's lives at risk. So, you know, I mean, I'm sure they would have done their case studies anyway, their research. And like I say, anything that goes through a regulatory body needs to go through 3 different stages of trials. So, you know,
it's not an easy feat, is it? Like, no. What country you're from or where you're getting it from, these trials have to be done. So I think we need to be reassured that if a country is buying any type of vaccination, then it's been vetted, really, because it's really important, isn't it? There's rules and regulations with all of this. We're going to wrap up now, so I'm just going to go through one by one, and if there's any last pieces of information you'd like to give our audiences, we'll start with Dr. Mekella. What would you like to say before we?
I would like to say to people to obviously look after their mental health, because obviously this year has been a horrendous year for all of us, in good ways and bad ways, obviously. But we have to remain positive. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and like Jansev said, and like Fulya said, you know, things will come to an end soon, and hopefully, you know, we can put all this behind us, and it'll be a living experience. We're living history now, so make the most of it. So just keep your immune system active, like lots of vitamin D, vitamin C, eat healthy, stay hydrated, things like that, and obviously keep this sane.
Yes, definitely, 100%. I think I agree with that one. Fulya, any lasting words?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to say to people that I know vaccination can be scary, but you are not only protecting yourself, but you're protecting others. There are people who won't be able to have a vaccination because of organ transplants or they're immunocompromised. So please think of that. And also just to say, we want to go back to normality, but please still keep with the hygiene, hand hygiene. Please make sure that you keep your social distancing in place, and you know, just to make sure that you do look after yourself, as Mek said, in terms of vitamin D. But I mean, it's really important that we keep up the good work. It's not just about there's a vaccine, oh well, you know, we can go and mix. No, I think hand hygiene is very important, and I think, you know, just stay the distance. You know, give it a few more months. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Absolutely. And Jansev.
Well, I want to start by echoing the words of both my fellow guests tonight. I think they're both absolutely spot on. And I think, to fill up last point, you know, I think let's not forget that whilst there is this great hope of the vaccine, the infection rate is creeping up again, and London is facing going back into tier 3.
Tier 3. Masks.
Yes, masks.
Forgot the masks.
Just, you know, keep that social distancing. I know it's hard, but keep it up. And to make up this point in terms of mental health, I know that since we went into lockdown the first time around in March this year, it's been an emotional roller coaster. So do look after yourselves and your mental health and those around you. And I'm going to leave you on a really sort of happy little note. I don't know if anyone else has heard the news, but at Whipsnade Zoo there was a baby giraffe born, a girl.
Oh, that's really sweet.
But there's a link to our discussion, which is that they've named her
Corona.
No.
Yeah,
Corona. Ran through my head. No, they haven't. They've called her Margaret. After the first lady to have the vaccination. So the first lady to have the vaccination, I can't remember her surname, but they've called the baby giraffe Margaret after the first lady to have the COVID vaccination.
Oh, brilliant.
That's fantastic.
Brilliant.
Brave lady.
Lovely.
She needs
very brave.
But I mean, I think actually all positive stuff from tonight's program. Thank you very much for all your information. Thank you very much to our audiences and all the comments. But that's it from Eurogenj TV. Have a very good evening. Good night. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.